I believe geopolitically speaking and geoeconomically speaking, the world has been held up by two pillars in particular. I mean, China is very important as well. But one is called the United States of America, and the other was called the United Nations of Europe, the European Union, actually the world's biggest market. And if you put what's going on together in England with Brexit, what's going on there, you're actually seeing a country, I believe, that's decided to commit economic suicide and is now arguing over how to kill itself, whether by poisoning, hanging, drowning, or shooting itself in the head. That's what this Brexit vote symbolizes for me. Disconnecting in a connected world is the dumbest thing Britain can do. And it's very worrying they're going down that path. At the same time, what happened in France is in many ways even more unnerving because France and Germany are really the core of the European Union. And President Macron did a lot of the right things to stimulate growth in France again. But he could not have done them in the more wrong way, in the most insensitive way, cutting taxes on wealthy people and corporations, while actually raising taxes on the working poor, including gasoline taxes for those living in rural areas. And it produced this vicious backlash of the yellow vests who basically came to Paris and have smashed up the place for the last 4 weekends. And what's really phenomenal about it is that how deaf Macron was. He came from a third party that didn't exist until he was elected, and therefore he had no mayors. He had no sort of local ties around the country, and he completely missed the mood. And so the mood came to him, and now he's had to reverse course, bust his own budget. And that really raises, into question the whole Franco-German alliance now. So again, if you step back and you think of this United States of America and the United Nations of Europe, the EU, for the first time, you can really begin to worry that this other pillar, this other United States out there, and I'm a big believer that two United States are better than one, this thing could really crack up, especially when you see Italy also, in a way, pulling out of its Euro commitments and getting closer to Russia and the like. So for the first time I come back from this trip really worried about the future of the EU.
Go ahead. I
was just going to say, Tom, I understand philosophically what you're saying, but I just wonder if, you can't just not consider the experiment itself of trying to have a common currency without a common fiscal authority. And, there's some smart people that just say it just was the wrong way to go about it. And anything that's happening, Stiglitz or what's happening right now it's like trying to fit a round peg into a square hole. So why try to force something just based on ideology or, philosophy instead of just pragmatically? It doesn't work. It's too unwieldy, and it's hurting the prospects for all the people that live there, especially in southern Europe.
Joe, I think you may be right, and I'm not hostile to that question or argument. This straitjacket of the euro around particularly the southern European countries, Italy, Greece, and Spain, has simply constricted their economic options so tightly that it's
the best ones too in Europe, Tom. I mean, those are the best places.
Yeah, the most fun places.
Yeah, I mean, for where we like to visit, right?
Exactly, and now you're getting. You look at Italy. It has a government represented by now a coalition of the far left and the far right. You get these really bizarre now political animals that emerge in response to this. So I think the question you're raising, Joe, is one that is going to be front and center, especially now that Macron has basically had to, maybe busting his own EU economic, budget constraints, and that's going to raise all kinds of questions between the French and the Germans.
Well, and Merkel leaving too.
Yeah. Eventually.
There's
just the one thing I would say about, and you're absolutely right, Joe, but it would be a tragedy in the sense that, the EU today is the other great center of free markets, free people, and free ideas. It's been our wingman in the world ever since the end of the Second World War in spreading those ideas. And it doesn't mean they necessarily have to end certainly if the Eurozone breaks up, but you do worry about the drift in some of these countries to some really extreme far left and far right options if the EU implodes.